Hi, my name is Tanya and I'm a sewaholic. Thanks a lot for joining me in this video. It will be a bit of a different one to my normal content, but I want to start by telling you what I'm wearing today because it is a full outfit of me mates. And the top that I'm wearing is the Freya top by Tillian Buttons from her stretch book. And I made the size 2, I think. And it's one of my very favorite patterns, and I made it from this quite heavyweight viscose jersey I got from Selfmade about a year ago, I would say. And then on the bottom, I'll stand up and I hope you can see it. I am wearing a pair of trousers that I made from a fabric that I'm not quite sure what it is. I think it is a like viscose twill mix. I think it's a mix with poly. And I bought it from a store in Vienna when I was there. And the pattern is a vintage Berta pattern that I got from one of my local charity shops. And I made these trousers, I think 4 times now. I have 4 pairs in my wardrobe. And I very much like the fit and how they look with a close-fitting top. Okay, so I started my YouTube channel I think about 2.5 months ago, maybe 3. Honestly, I can't really remember. But there are, at the point of me filming this, there are 500 people or a bit more actually subscribed to my channel, and I am so grateful for all your support, for all the comments, for all your likes, and yeah, it's a bit wild, honestly, to me that 500 people are interested in what I'm talking about on this channel once a week. And thanks so much for your support. I thought it would be a good idea to share my sewing journey and how I started sewing with you, because I am a very nosy person and I love it when people talk about how they got into their favorite hobby and yeah, their journey to being here on YouTube also. Okay, so my sewing journey is, there are different stages, I would say. First of all, there is the stage where I learned how to use a sewing machine when I was a child. Secondly, there is the stage of me being in school, and the school I attended was a school where we had sewing lessons, basically 5 hours a week, I would say, which is quite a lot. And that's the second stage. And then the third stage of my sewing journey is at the beginning of the pandemic, the first lockdown in Austria, which started, I think, in April. Was it 2019 or 2020? Oh my gosh, I can't even remember. But that was the start of my very favorite hobby and the start of all this year of my 2 machines, of the passion I have for this hobby. And I will go through these 3 stages to tell you how I came to where I am today. And the first stage, as I told you, was when I learned how to use a sewing machine. And my mom is she doesn't do it anymore, but she was a very talented quilter. And I think when I was about 2 years old, she and my dad took me to a quilting show here in Austria, and they told me that I was sitting in my pram and just being very like observing of all the quilts hanging on the walls, and they said it seems that I enjoyed it, which was probably my start of the love for fabrics and textiles. And so my mom always had her Pfaff sewing machine at home as long as I can remember, and I have 2 younger sisters, and she used to do little sewing projects with us. And from my memory, it was quite early on. We did like small projects like makeup bags, or we sewed a teddy bear once, which I will insert a little clip here. And from the teddy bear is with me in this room right now, and from the way it looks, I'm pretty sure my mom did most of the sewing on it. But in my memory, I still helped her and I still used the sewing machine. She taught us how to thread the machine, how to use the pedal, how it worked. So that was probably the start of it all. And I really enjoyed doing the sewing at that time of my childhood. But somehow my mom didn't quilt anymore a few years later, and the sewing machine wasn't out anymore that often. And then when I was, I think, like 13, around that age, I came to a school where we had sewing lessons for 2 years from memory. Or was I even 14? Maybe I was 14, yes. And to be honest, I hated it. I really did hate it. It was like we were like around 14, 15 people in these lessons, and sorry, my cat is meowing. And we could choose a project, we could choose our pattern, we would get the instructions of what fabric to buy from our teacher, and we just went and bought what we liked. But I wasn't really able to construct a garment on my own. I didn't understand how the basics worked, even if we got explained in the beginning, I think. But I had to sit in a queue for a very long time to get further instructions on how to sew the dress I wanted to create, and it was not at all an enjoyable process for me. Even though the garments I made in the end were okay, they were not bad or anything. I even made a ball gown for the ball we had at our school, and I remember I really liked this one, and if I would still have it around and it still fit me, I would have shown it to you, but I actually have to ask my mom if it's hanging somewhere in the wardrobe at her place. But all in all, I didn't enjoy the experience. But anyhow, I knew how to use a sewing machine. I knew all the basics, like what does seam allowance mean, how do I trace a pattern, that kind of stuff, which is very, very helpful if you start sewing again at the age of, what was I then, 25? I think I was 25 or 24 turning 25, when it really became my favorite hobby in the world, which was at the beginning of lockdown. And the thing was, I knew there is a lot of time ahead of me. I just lost my job at that point. I went on a short trip with my sister to Barcelona, Spain. We had the best time. We came back the next day, lockdown basically happened. And I was thinking about what could I do to fill all the time I had at my hands at that point. And then the idea came to me that I love fashion. I have always loved fashion, and wouldn't it be cool to create an outfit I would really like to have on my own? Just try it out. My mom had the sewing machine at home. She even had a serger, which doesn't really work properly, but I could use it. She had lots of scrap fabrics, mostly quilting cottons, but that didn't really matter. I could use them, and I decided, let's have a go. And then I was watching YouTube videos, not really sewing at that time, but I think it was an interior video, and I saw one with Dita Fontees, I think that's her name, the famous burlesque dancer, and she wore a gorgeous silky outfit, wide leg pants, like a jacket on top, which everything was flowy and silky, and I fell in love with that look. I tried to insert a picture of it here, and I decided that's what I want to go for. I texted one of my best friends who is a fashion designer who studied fashion design in Munich, and he said, yeah, sure, you can try, but it will be difficult because these kinds of fabrics are very slippery, very flowy, but go for it. And I did. I ordered some fabric from Stoffe.de at that time, and also the patterns, which were, I think, McCall's patterns. I will also insert a clip here. And these patterns were great, to be honest. I mean, it's the big four. I didn't know about indie patterns at that time. I didn't know that it could be much easier to create these garments. But yeah, anyhow, I had to wait about 2 to 3 weeks for the patterns and the fabrics to arrive, because many people decided they want to sew. It was not just me. So I did some test projects with the cotton scraps my mom had lying around, and I searched for free tutorials on YouTube on how to do different garments, also on Pinterest. And I made some face masks for my whole family, which was really enjoyable. And I think the very first thing I made was a bralette kind of top with a matching skirt, and they were like free tutorials I found online, and they turned out great. I just used like a light green cotton fabric my mom had, and I was so surprised that it could work what I'm doing there, because in school I was used to it never working. I had to seam rip every single seam, and it was so not enjoyable at all. But this time it worked, and it was so fun to create these garments that fitted me in the end, and I could be so creative, and I had basically the whole day to do that. So I was very encouraged by this, and then finally the fabrics arrived from Stoffe.de and the patterns, and at this point I really taught myself how to follow patterns without having to ask my teacher all the time, because there was no teacher. Basically, my mom is a quilter, not a garment sewer, so there she couldn't really help me. I had my friend who is a fashion designer who I wrote to from time to time, and he helped me understand different, for example, the notches on the patterns. I didn't know what that was, but he helped me understand what they mean and what I have to do with them. And then I watched a lot of YouTube videos and a lot of tutorials, and that's also how I got into the YouTube sewing space community and also on Instagram. And it felt like I have found my hobby, I have found my passion, and I have found my people. And I am a big UK lover. I worked there when I was 17 for about 3 months. I did an internship in Wales, and I fell in love with the country and the people, and the fact that a lot of sewing YouTubers are actually from the UK felt even more like comforting, I would say, and like coming home to something, to a hobby, to people that understand you, that feel the same about what we are doing. And it was really lovely. And I think Michelle from Sewing Bunny and also Liz from The Baker That Sews they were two of the first people I watched, and I still love their content today. And that's how it got rolling. And then I made these amazing wide leg trousers and the matching oversized jacket, which I still have in my wardrobe today, 3 years later. And the sewing journey began. I taught myself how to buy fabrics online because all the shops were closed and I couldn't really go to my local stores. And I found indie patterns, I made a lot of them, I learned how to print them out and stick them together, and I made so many cool garments. Silvio, my friend, he also taught me how to self-draft patterns and how to copy patterns from garments you already have. And then I started my TikTok account, which I am not really doing anything with at the moment, but at that time that really worked. People followed me, and it was so lovely, and I felt so fulfilled with what I have found there and the hobby that I have today. And then I decided I want to buy my own sewing machine, because I knew when I moved out from my parents' place I couldn't take my mom's puff with me. So I bought my brother's sewing machine, which my grandma gave me a bit of money for, because she was also a garment sewer when she was younger and she loved that I found this hobby. And then a bit later I bought my serger, and I've never looked back, to be honest. It's just a place I can go to. It's so good for my mental health, and I struggle with it, or I have struggled with mental health problems for quite a few years now, and this hobby is just the best to get me into the flow state and just shut off from the world around me. And then I saw all these YouTube videos, and I think it's so inspiring to watch the people. And it's like I have friends who share the same hobby with me, even if I have never met you guys in real life. But yeah, and I debated about if I had the courage to be on YouTube and share my things with the world online. And then finally, about 2 or 3 months ago, I decided it was time, and if I wouldn't try, I wouldn't know if it works, if people would be interested, and so I did. And honestly, I'm really, really glad I did. It is so cool to share my passion on YouTube with you all. So thank you very much for your support. I hope that you were a bit interested in my sewing journey. And I would love to know how you got into sewing. How long have you been sewing? Are there people in real life or online who are sharing this passion with you? And what is it that makes sewing the best hobby for you? It would be great if you could just comment down below and we could have a little chat about it. Bye guys!